Chapter 1: The Wizarding World and John Wick. You are listening at novelfull.audio. 1991 years, 6 Privet Drive, Little Whinging, Surrey, Ching. In the morning, sunlight shines through the windows on the second floor onto the wooden floor. The sound of tapping interrupted the boy's concentration on sharpening the pencil. He looked up, and there was a round shadow printed on the floor. When he saw clearly the owner of the shadow, he couldn't help muttering, "I know I'm an extraordinary person. But you're going too far." The 11-year-old boy is a head taller than other children. Xin is tall and has a small grey-blue vest suit. The golden pocket watch chain on the vest makes the penknife in the boy's hand as elegant as a wine glass. He stood up and walked from the shadows to the sunlight. The sun shines on his black and smooth hair, and the feather-like eyelashes flicker against the window into the room. The reddish-brown eyes squinted uncomfortably in the sunlight, and the light red thin lips under the pretty nose were slightly pursed. Boys of half-Slavic descent do not have the iconic freckles of European and American boys, and their fair and delicate faces look like noble sons who come out of fairy tales. Put the pencils neatly on the table, as if you are playing with your own artwork. John Wick stared outside, where there was an owl knocking on its window to get in, with a letter in its beak. This made him lost in thought. There is nothing wrong with owls. After all, this era is not the era when penguins were well developed, and writing letters is not uncommon, but owl plus delivery is a strange thing. After carefully observing the letter, the envelope was made of heavy parchment, and the writing on it was written in emerald green ink. Things are fine up to this point, but the problem is the wax seal in the middle. It was a coat of arms with a capital H, surrounded by 4 animals: lion, eagle, badger and snake. Could it be that one? That it can be seen from John's name that he is a peace-loving person, and he also has an unknown secret. Yes, he is a time traveler. From the moment he came into this world, he knew that he was an unusual person. After all, he was John Wick. It has the same name as the god of killing who slaughtered a gang for a dog in the John Wick series. With such a name, he is destined to have an extraordinary life. For this reason, he specially trained how to kill 3 people with a pencil, and developed the technique well on his peers, and was given the title of Pencil Killer. He is confident that even if he encounters a dangerous situation in the future, he can calmly take out a pencil and threaten the opponent to put down his weapon. But he really didn't expect that he was indeed in an unusual world, but it was not an ordinary world. There are a group of wizards in this world. They can move a magic wand to make a person forget everything, and they can enter your brain without any scruples to get the information you want. A group of humans with supernatural powers, not to mention a group of wizards who are twisted and lunatic like Grindelwald and Voldemort. So my pencil-killing skills are wasted. John looked at the neatly arranged pencils with regret. Thanks to his 10 years of training, it turned out to be a magical world. No matter how powerful your killer is, you can still kill a wizard. For wizards, those incurable diseases can be easily cured, not to mention the elusive magic. Forget it, what Confucius said, if they come, they will be safe. Since they have come, let them be buried here. After struggling for a while, he reached out to open the window. The owl, which had been hanging outside for a long time, was finally able to fly in, and angrily threw the letter in John's face. The owl turned around and flew away, not even begging for food on weekdays. How unlucky that this annoying kid should be a freshman at Hogwarts. Tisk, it's impolite. It's thanks to Hagrid that he can bear to say whether these owls are raised by Hagrid. John took the envelope down, complained about Hogwarts owl qualities, and opened the letter. Dear Mr. Wick, that we are pleased to inform you that you have been admitted to study at Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry. Enclosed is a list of required books and equipment. Semester is scheduled to start on September 9. That we will be waiting for your owl to bring your reply before July 1st. Vice Principal, female, sincerely, Minerva McGonagall. September 9th, there is still a while. At the same time, a voice sounded in his mind. Ding, found a hidden corner of the world, start a series of missions, Hogwarts. That's right, Goldfinger. The so-called traversers have their own golden fingers. At the age of 5, John discovered that a panel suddenly appeared in his mind. This is also an important reason why he was able to learn the stunt of killing 3 people with one stroke at the age of 11. The panel is very simple, with only 2 functions besides task issuance, support, add points. Blessing, as the name suggests, is similar to the superposition of various buffs in the game. Adding points can Improve the skill level. Both blessings and bonus points can be obtained by completing randomly assigned tasks, similar to John's short weapon proficiency, which has reached level 7. He can easily defeat 3 adults even with a pencil, according to his original plan. By adding points, he could become an all-round athlete, or he could be admitted to the top universities. These were disrupted by this admission notice before they could be realized. There is one more thing added to the panel. Magic. There is no doubt that the authenticity of this letter has been confirmed. It's February. John then needs to find a way to get his parents, the Wicks, to accept the fact that their son is a wizard. John, this joke is not funny. Mr. Watson Wick looked at his son with a serious expression and said, "You can use a pencil to successfully make your father run from the company to the school to apologize to the 4 children for you, but you can't use this kind of unfunny jokes to torture your father." Watson Wick is the father of John in this life. Watson has golden brown hair, reddish-brown eyes, a big nose bridge and a decent suit. He looks like a typical British elite. In fact, John is more like his mother. Mrs. Wick has the same black hair. This beauty from the Bear Country, even the skirt on her body is full of mature charm. As a middle-class elite, the Wick family did not believe what little John said. Mrs. Wick is also on the same front as Watson, holding a gold-rimmed bone china cup with coffee in her hand, and her eyes are helpless for children lying to their parents. "It's 3, and I'm not kidding." John retorted. Obviously there were 3 of them, and the other one ran over and fell down by himself, which had nothing to do with him. "That's right, that's not what that little fat man named Dudley said. He ate all the cake for the apology that time. My God, I don't know how he could eat it." Watson looked at his son with a half-smile. After realizing that he was in the wizarding world, the more John thought about it, the more he felt that something was wrong. Could that fat Dudley be Harry Potter's cousin? In the end, after John's argument, the Wicks still expressed their willingness to give John a chance. In this way, the days passed little by little. John also received the new nickname given to him by the Wicks, Little Wizard. It's just that I don't know who heard the news. A group of children who were not right with John formed a team to mock him, but they were scared by him pulling out the pencil and ran home to call their mother. Chapter 2 Diagon Alley and the Giants. You are listening at novelfull.audio. On July 7th, there was a knock on the door of Wick's house. After opening the door, there was a tall woman, dark green robes, square glasses over a serious face. This image, without thinking about it, is the vice principal who loves Quidditch, Minerva McGonagall, Hogwarts professor and head of Gryffindor. McGonagall nodded politely, and then asked John, who had been stunned. "Minerva McGonagall, John Wick, may I come in?" Seeing the characters in the book for the first time, John came back with a bright smile on his face and let Professor McGonagall come in. The Wicks, who didn't believe their son, were also stunned. They looked at each other and wondered if it was a child who hired someone to play. The skeptical husband and wife sat on the sofa, and Professor McGonagall sat on the other side, but this time the protagonist John has become a servant serving tea and water. After taking his seat, Watson spoke first. "Are you that Hogwarts teacher?" That his expression and words all expressed his doubts. McGonagall has seen countless parents like this, but she is not angry. She corrected the other party's words politely, and said, "It's Hogwarts, to be precise, it's a professor." The couple looked at John together, and couldn't help muttering in their hearts, didn't the son lie to him? John looked innocent, and what he said was true. Watson didn't trust a person so easily. He changed his sitting position and leaned forward slightly. He gestured with both hands, and said in a questioning tone, "So my son is a wizard? Will you strip dead people's nails and nail black cats to other people's doorposts?" It is not very friendly to speak with arrogance and doubt. Even Mag frowned and said seriously, "Mr. Wick, only dark wizards can peel off the nails of dead people. Hogwarts is a real school of magic. Feel sorry." Watson also realized that what he said was a bit too much, but it is still impossible to believe it like this. McGonagall knew that it was not easy for a Muggle family to accept a wizard, so she pulled out her wand and waved it. The teacup Watson held turned into a mouse, which crawled up his sleeve, causing Watson to scream in horror. It was also the first time for John to see magic, and it was an extremely high-end transfiguration technique, so he was inevitably excited. After this battle, Watson completely believed what John said. No matter how powerful a magician is, it is impossible to turn the cup in his hand into a mouse across a tea table. After sending away Mag that day, Watson turned into a curious baby. John, turn a cup into a mouse. John, let the broom sweep itself. John, can you fly on a broomstick? John. John was so annoyed that he finally resorted to his trump card and asked Mrs. Wick to drive Watson out of the room. 7-month 31 day, John is also preparing for school. It should be here. Charing Cross Road, the dingy, cramped bar looks out of place with the big bookstores and record stores on either side. However, it was such a conspicuous place that passers-by completely ignored it. Muggle banishment spell. People who have seen Harry Potter must be familiar with this place. This is the place where Harry's dream began, and it is also the only way to Diagon Alley. This dirty and small bar also has a famous name, the Leaky Cauldron. Before entering the bar, the beautiful Mrs. Wick expressed her concern. John, you are still a child, can you enter the bar? John said generously, definitely not. After all, it is hard to like such an environment, to be honest. After entering the Leaky Cauldron, the smell of sweat combined with the smell of sour beer produced a weird smell, which made the family of 3 frown. I thought the outside was sloppy enough, but the inside was even scarier. John was even a little curious about how these wizards tolerated such a smell, especially a guy with a scarf on his head. There is a taste of 100 in it, and that person contributed at least 60. The boss, who was already bald, came out of the bar and knew what was going on when he saw the family of 3 dressed up. Come on, you guys will at least save me a few nuts by staying here. The boss, who regards money as his life, moved out of the way of the bar angrily. His words were dissatisfaction with the 3 of them, which made Mrs. Wick feel that the wizard was really rude. Led by the boss, the family of 3 came to the entrance of Diagon Alley. The owner of the Leaky Cauldron demonstrates how to use the entrance. Count 3 pieces on top of the trash can, and count 2 pieces horizontally. As he knocked on the wall that originally had no door separated, revealing a path that belonged to the magical world. This is magic. John was shocked, as if the scene of 2 worlds appeared before his eyes. Even if I recall it in the future, it will still be so fresh in my memory. Sorry, excuse me. A rough voice sounded from behind. The huge figure looked at least 3 meters high. The oversized moleskin coat exudes an unidentifiable smell of beasts or the smell of not taking a bath for too long. Next to the giant, a small boy is like a thin person caused by years of malnutrition. The baggy clothes make him look thinner, and he wears a pair of round glasses on his face, with those beautiful green eyes under the lenses. Seeing the lightning-shaped scar under the opponent's hair, John immediately recognized the identity of the little boy. In the previous life, he was someone who had watched Harry Potter anyway. Although more than 10 years had passed, it would be strange if such a distinctive combination could not be recognized. The boy who survived. Hagrid and Harry. John murmured, and his parents were already speechless in surprise. Turning a cup into a mouse was amazing enough, but Hagrid's height, which was obviously not human, still frightened the 2 of them. Seeing the large and small groups getting further and further away, John also took his heart back. Although he really wanted to get close to the 2 of them, it was obviously not a good time. He still has a lot of things to buy, but he needs to go to Gringotts to exchange them before buying. Skip. The confusing exchange rate at Gringotts. The income of the Wick family is not low. Watson Wick is the manager of a business, and Mrs. Wick runs a beauty shop. A total of £2,000 was spent in exchange for 400 gold galleons. John recalled the goblin's greedy and cunning expression on the counter, and always felt that he had been cheated. In any case, this shopping has a principle. John ignored Watson's thoughts beside him. He wanted to collect the galleon to show off to his friends. The family wandered around Diagon Alley, saw the dragon liver, and the foodie Jean of Daciancio was ready to move, and there was an urge to buy it and taste it. But for the Wicks, it was a bunch of bloody livers to avoid. Lehan Bookstore. Watson's cheap hand almost had his fingers bitten off by the Book of Monsters. John bought all the books according to the book list, and also bought several books about the wizarding world. Among them, the thick Hogwarts, a school history made him look away with difficulty. Madame Wajin's gown store. Madame Malkin was a dumpy witch with an infectious laugh. She is very satisfied with John. The child is a born hanger. Every piece of clothing fits him well. After he was gone, Harry came here and saw the spoiled kid Malfoy. Crucible store. John tried hard to persuade Watson not to buy an automatic stirring pot and put it back in his collection, which would make a mess in the house. But Watson felt that this thing might be used as a stew pot. When he heard that it was going to be put in the kitchen, Mrs. Wick strongly suppressed it, and finally made Watson dismiss the idea. Pharmacy, the family looked at the weird things soaked in the liquid in the jar, and Mrs. Wick was so frightened that she covered her baby son's eyes. Watson looked nauseous but couldn't vomit, feeling that the bacon he had eaten for breakfast was wriggling out of his stomach. The last family left the pharmacy as if they were running away. Chapter 3 Wands and Gifts. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Ollivander's Wand Shop, making fine wands since 382 BC. At the last stop, John finally came to the most exciting moment. If you want to say that the whole Harry Potter can best represent the wizarding world, it must be a magic wand in each hand. Without a wand, even if you are Voldemort, you have to stand still. Ollivander Wand Shop, this is the largest munitions supply facility in the magic world. John couldn't help but praised. As expected of the staff made in 382 BC, it's really extraordinary. Immediately, like a little grown-up, he told Mrs. Wick to keep an eye on the husband of the middle-aged man who was overly curious. John walked inside with unusually excited steps. After walking in, the first thing you see is not a person, but the pile of thousands of long and narrow cardboard boxes containing magic wands. The storefront, which was originally small, became narrower and narrower against the backdrop of the cardboard boxes. The thick dust everywhere made John wonder how Ollivander lived in it. Doesn't it need to be cleaned? As John looked inside, Ollivander looked at him too. Good afternoon. Walking out of the pile of paper boxes, Ollivander had a kind smile on his face. Hello, I would like a wands. Of course everybody wants a wand. Ollivander accepted John's words with a smile and walked out from behind the counter. Freshman at Hogwarts, what's your name? John Wick. Very well, Mr. Wick, which arm is your dominant hand? Right hand. In fact, my left hand is fine too. John shoots left and right, thanks to his 2.5 years of practicing pencil stunts, in order to be able to quickly deal with enemies on the left and right. Left hand then. After thinking about it for a while, John still chose the left hand. Ollivander took out a tape measure and gesticulated on John. The tape measure was enchanted. Looking at Ollivander with a serious face, John felt a strange feeling in his heart. The old man didn't seem to be selling wands, but more like a tailor. All wands are unique. The wizard does not choose the wand chooses the wizard. After the measurement, Ollivander smiled mysteriously and left this sentence. Back behind the counter, Ollivander first removed a carton from the shelf. When the box was opened, a black wand lay inside. Willow with unicorn hair, 7 3/4, you should try it, says Ollivander. John took the wand with excitement. It was the first wand he had ever touched. Trying to swipe to the side vigorously, the wooden cabinet in the store exploded directly, and the wood residue splashed all over the ground. The sheer power kept John on the spot. It doesn't seem to be it. Try this one again. Ollivander took the wand carefully and took out a mahogany wand again. John took it, and the paper box next to it burst open. You're picky. Try this, you and dragon heartstring. Time wore on and it seemed like none of the roots could adapt. Under the constant replacement, John was a little numb. The store, which was supposed to be fairly clean, had been blown to pieces. Even Watson, who was stopped by his wife outside, suspected that the store was selling ammunition instead of magic wands. Mr. Wick, with all due respect, I have never seen a student as destructive as you. Even the best-tempered oak and unicorn hair can exert the power of a bomb in John's hands, which makes Ollivander more and more excited. The more picky guests are, the more sense of accomplishment they can bring to Ollivander. I remember, it was a wand as picky as you are. Thinking of something, Ollivander slapped his head. The old man climbed up the shelf with such a fast pace that John wondered how old he was, and at the same time, he was really afraid that he would step on the air and fall off. After rummaging through the cartons on the shelf, Ollivander found a dusty carton in his hand. Blowing it out in one breath made the dust turn into a cloud of dust and fly out on the box. Red oak and ptarmigan tail feathers, 9 3/4, springy and pliable. He reached out with a smile and took out the wand inside, and Ollivander handed it to John expectantly. A pair of eyes stared at John, as if watching his daughter get married nervously. When John took it, an idea popped into his mind for no reason. "It's it. Blessed to the soul, raise your hand and wave your wand gracefully." There was no explosion, just a little bit of fluorescent light emerging from the tip of the wand, as gentle as a breeze, falling on the face like bubbles. "That's it." Clapping happily, Ollivander showed a satisfied smile. "Every wand is a wayward child, and it is the greatest happiness for children to find their own partners." Ollivander smiled and said to John, "The red oak wand is passionate about fighting, it is the warrior in the wand. It sounds like it suits me better than a pencil." John also smiled, "And now he doesn't need to carry the pencil on the lining. I hope that the red oak is better than the pencil, so that I am not afraid of breaking it." The price of a wand is 7 galleons. After paying the money, John went to meet his parents. Along the way, Watson showed great interest in John's wand, and even took the wand to make a morning glory bloom on his wife's head. John snatched back his wand, lest his father continue to be a monster. "By the way, I still want to buy an owl." John slapped his forehead. "I almost forgot that there are no telephones in Hogwarts. If there is no owl, you can only use the Hogwarts public owl." Thinking of the grumpy owl, John thought it would be a good idea to buy one. Yela Owl Shop. There was a lot of noise in the store, and the smell of owls and bird droppings made Mrs. Wick unbearable and went out first. "That's it." John chose the white one among the many owls at a glance. It was a snowy owl, and John named it Basil. Basil, the snowy owl, tilted his head and stared at John with his eyes on his round face, as if he wanted to remember this master. After returning home, Watson became very playful and took various pictures with John's wand. If it weren't for John's wizard robe not being able to fit in, it is estimated that he would have to wear it and take a few more photos. Mrs. Wick leaned against the cabinet and looked at him helplessly, as if looking at a child who hadn't grown up, with a hint of a smile in her eyes. At the same time, Harry also received his gift, a snowy owl he named Hedwig. "This is his happiest day." John received a present. When Mrs. Wick took out the gift, John was taken aback by the moving gift box, subconsciously pulled out his wand and held it backwards to be vigilant. Open the gift box, and a puppy emerges from it, large ears, brown on top of head, black on back. Beagle, full name Beagle Beagle. After the puppy came out, it licked John's face wildly, and the dog-licking attributes were obvious at a glance. Mrs. Wick smiled watching this warm scene, and leaned into Watson's arms and said warmly, "You're Dad, and I don't think it's okay for you to take a spider or a mouse to school, and this little one is our start-to-school gift for you." Watson followed suit and nodded, mouthing silently, apparently saying that it was your mother's idea. Watson, who has become a fan of wizards for some time, doesn't think mice are bad. "Come on, take a mouse to school, that's cool." John felt that if Pop was a wizard, he must be a Gryffindor. This spirit of exploration of everything and the spirit of adventure that is not afraid of death is the perfect embodiment of the group of little lions. "Thank you, Mom, I also don't think it's good to bring a mouse." John, who also doesn't like mice, likes this gift very much. After all, mice remind John of a plot in Harry Potter. It seems that there is a greasy middle-aged uncle who turned into a mouse. He was disgusted when he turned back into a human form. Pick up the puppy. This puppy is only a few months old, and its tail is wagging like a propeller. Give your pet a name. I even named the first toy car your grandma gave me. It is a pity that Watson was not able to buy a black widow as a pet for his son as he wished. Father and son have always had the same taste when it comes to naming. John held the puppy, dealing with the dog-licking offensive. "What's the name? Let me think about it. Let's call it Tom." "Well, this Tom is the Tom and Jerry one. Definitely not Voldemort's real name." In this way, John had his first dog. Chapter for the Minister of Magic and the Juggernaut. You are listening at novelfull.audio. 9-month one day, the Wick family sent their son to King's Cross Station. Watson was wearing a suit and leather shoes, holding the address in his hand and checking it repeatedly, trying to make sure he read it correctly. 9 3/4. Watson has lived in England for so long, but he has never heard of such a platform at King's Cross Station. The family wandered around for a long time but couldn't find it. John glanced at the undiminished Watson, not even bothering to reveal that he had volunteered to see the fabled wizarding trains. As a muggle, curiosity about magical things is unavoidable. John, who had seen the plot, naturally knew where it was, and found the third pillar between the 9th and 10th platforms. John turned his head and waved goodbye to his father. Under the stunned eyes of his father, he slammed into the pillar. There was a lot of luggage in his hand, which caused John to accidentally bump into a little girl while crossing the platform. Oops. Point two bags collide. The body that has been exercising for many years plays an important role at this moment. He walked steadily, like an old dog. The weak chicken wizard who collided with him was not so lucky, and was directly bumped into a mess. The luggage fell to the ground and scattered books. Strength versus magic. Game, dash, strength wins. Are you okay? Seeing that he had bumped into someone, John hurried over to help the fallen little wizard, at the same time, helped to pick up the scattered books. By the way, while picking up the book, he looked up at the little wizard's face. The other party had already put on a wizard robe, with thick and disheveled brown hair, and piercing brown eyes, but the two rabbit-like front teeth caught the most attention. John has no other advantages, but sincerity, he exclaimed. Your front teeth are really big. Hermione, who originally wanted to say it was okay, turned dark instantly when she heard this. As the daughter of a dentist, her front teeth are bigger than other children, which is the last thing she wants to be mentioned. Hermione didn't want to give John a good look at this person who bumped into her and laughed at her front teeth. John didn't know that the person he bumped into was Hermione from the Three Little Ones. After all, Hermione was beautified in the Harry Potter movies back then. Besides, after so many years, he can remember some plots because of the success of Harry Potter in his previous life, but it's really difficult for him to remind him of some details and the like. John, who had offended people invisibly, picked up the scattered books and stacked them back. John smiled, and he was really very gracious, but Hermione on the opposite side didn't like it at all. Thank you. After hastily thanking him, she didn't want to talk to this person anymore, and pushed her luggage hard and walked away quickly. John thought it was the little girl who was shy, so he brushed his hair with his hands, and said sadly and narcissistically, I'm so damn charming. On the train, John came early and there were still many empty cars on the train. He randomly entered a compartment and sat down, looking out the window boredly. In memory, Weasley should meet the Savior for the first time today, but unfortunately, he didn't wait for the famous scene. Excuse me, can I sit here? A voice with little confidence sounded. It was a boy. There were freckles on Yuan's face, and her expression was timid and restless, as if she was afraid that John would not like it. It can be seen that this is a child who is not confident. This little fat man still looked much slimmer than Dudley's big fat man. John smiled and said, Please sit down. Hearing these words, Neville was relieved, and after entering the carriage, he realized that the boy in front of him didn't look like a man to be trifled with a delicate appearance. He was wearing a brown woolen sweater, and his magic wand moved flexibly between his fingers, like an obedient little snake. This feeling is like sitting across from a cowboy, holding a revolver in his hand and playing with it. The timid Neville was so frightened that he shrank into a ball and pressed against the car window, trying to reduce his sense of existence as much as possible. Cuckoo. Life. Neville's pet toad jumped out, and he grabbed Raffle in a hurry. Fearing that he would offend the other party, he secretly glanced at John in fear, and John was also looking at him, which made him quickly lower his head, thinking that he had made the other party angry. Little did he know that John was staring at the toad at this time, and the toad brought back his memories. Toad. I remember that someone in Harry Potter had such a pet. Among the few episodes that John remembers, there are not many impressive ones except for the Three Little Ones. Among the few people who remember it, the name of Hogwarts Juggernaut is definitely one, so he stretched out his hand and introduced himself with a smile. Hi, my name is John Wick. My name is Neville Longbottom. Neville also stammered in response. When John heard the name, he thought inwardly. Sure enough, a future Hogwarts Juggernaut, a true Gryffindor. Some people say that Neville is the son of prophecy. This sentence has brainwashed many people on the internet platform in the previous life. John is more inclined to double saviors, because Harry Potter cannot win without Neville beheading the Horcrux, without Harry's electric welding. No. It's duobo. Neville can only gain anger by killing the big snake. The two are indispensable, and Neville's kindness destined him to be unable to kill Harry, who is the seventh Horcrux, even if he knew the truth. So the double saviors are more reliable, but Neville saw that John didn't speak after hearing his name, and Neville wondered if he should change carriages. Longbottom's reputation was not good among pureblood families, and he was on the same level as Weasley. After the atmosphere quieted down, another domineering voice came from outside. "Can I sit here?" Curly hair and oversized front teeth. "Here comes Miss Know-It-all Hermione Granger." Neville thought that one more person might relieve the pressure, so he couldn't wait to say, "There's no one here." After speaking, he secretly looked at John. Hermione tilted her head slightly, which was a habit of hers. As the top student in the school, she has always been the teacher's favorite, but after sitting down, she found the black-haired boy opposite, and the two had met once in the morning. Just remembering what the other party said about her big front teeth today, she couldn't help but turn dark. Neville was glad that someone had shared the pressure, but when he saw Hermione's face darken, he thought he had done something rude and offensive again. The atmosphere fell silent again. In the end, it was Hermione who broke the silence, stretched out her hand towards Neville, raised her head slightly, and said in a much lower voice, "Hermione Granger." "Neville Longbottom." Neville breathed a sigh of relief, and the atmosphere of silence made him doubt whether he could make it to school. John also reacted, and said, "John Wick." Only then did he discover that the girl he said had big front teeth turned out to be Hermione from the three little ones in the protagonist group. Hermione didn't hold grudges for too long. She was a kind-hearted girl. After hearing that Neville's parents were wizards, she was immediately interested. "So do you know magic? Children from magical families should be exposed to magic very early. Can you show me?" Neville was stuttering and unable to speak, and Hermione's mouth was like stepping on a sewing machine without stopping. John smiled knowingly when he saw this scene, and Miss Know-It-all really broke the cauldron and asked the bottom line. Putting down the wand in his hand, he rescued Neville and said, "Talent is different for everyone, just like my family is full of muggles, but I am a wizard." Hearing that John was also from a muggle family, Hermione felt less upset and more intimate. The two chatted about new things in the wizarding world, and they could ask Neville, a local resident, from time to time. The atmosphere in the carriage improved, but after chatting, Neville found that Toad had gone somewhere. Hermione was helpful and volunteered to take Neville to look for the Toad, and asked John if he would go before leaving. John was too lazy to move, holding the chocolate frog he just bought, hesitated where to put his mouth, waved his hand and said, "I still have to stay in the carriage, lest others think that there is no one and sit on it." As soon as Hermione thought it made sense, she took Neville to the car to find Toad. Chapter 5 Three Little Ones Meet in Hogwarts. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The two of them left and didn't come back until after the train started. "God, John, you have no idea who I saw." After Neville came back, he was a little incoherent, which made John confused for a while. Still, Hermione next to her raised her voice and told John clearly, "Harry Potter, the savior in that story, is also on the train." Thinking of the mediocre savior she saw, Hermione raised her head proudly and said, "The savior is nothing special." Neville retorted, "But my grandma said that Harry Potter defeated you-know-who and saved the wizarding world." The two started arguing. When John heard it, he realized what he had missed. The epic meeting of the three little ones is on the carriage. John regretted a little. How could he forget about this matter? The train traveled for several hours and arrived at Hogwarts after dark. John also changed into the school uniform robe at the prompt of Hermione. With the blessing of his appearance, he has a more mysterious aura after wearing the robe. Before getting out of the car, John saw Hagrid's huge size through the glass. Hagrid was holding a nightlight in his hand, which was quite visible in the dark. After the little wizards got out of the car, they all marveled at Hagrid's size, and the old students left in an orderly manner under the leadership of the prefects. John noticed that there was a little boy with red hair next to Harry. It was difficult to know that it was Weasley with the iconic red hair. A group of freshmen headed to Hogwarts led by Hagrid. After Black Lake boarded the boat, John did not forget to remind Neville. "Neville, have you found your Toad yet?" Neville's round face was taken aback for a moment, and when he saw Harry, he forgot about it excitedly. But now that they are all on board, and Lev hasn't been found yet, Neville is so anxious that he almost bursts into tears. And as the initiator of all this, John is not in a hurry. He remembered that Neville's Toad would end up at the Hogwarts gate. In fact, when he watched the movie before, he was very curious about where Neville's Toad was hidden. It was obviously missing on the train, but it appeared at Hogwarts. Could it be that he has the blood of a magical animal? Fantastic animals are creatures in the magical world, and they are also one of the important factors that can make this world colorful. Look down. Hagrid's loud voice made Hermione and Neville bow their heads in fright, only John did not. After the boat passed by, they realized that they didn't need to bow their heads at all, or that only Hagrid's size needed to bow their heads. After passing through the Black Lake, the little wizards officially entered Hogwarts. This 1,000-year-old school in the magical world looks like a castle at a glance, full of mystery in the dark night. Little wizards step on the steps with a rich history. At the door, Professor McGonagall with a serious face was already waiting there. Unlike the last time I went to Wick's house, this time Professor McGonagall wore a black pointed wizard hat, which added 3 points of majesty to her. Nodding slightly to Hagrid, the unsmiling Professor McGonagall said, "Welcome to Hogwarts." Ding! Start the Hogwarts stage Mission 1, pass the first school year of the Magic Apprentice. Mission reward, Magic Blood +1, any point +2. Note, trigger the corresponding task to get task reward blessing. As Professor McGonagall spoke, John received a system prompt. John let himself go, his eyes wandering, as if he had lost his mind in class. In front of him, a transparent panel appeared that seemed to be written on glass. This panel is very monotonous, there are only 4 in total. Magic Power, Level 1, 0 out of 100. Curse, Allahu Hole Opening, Level 3. Skills, Short Weapon Proficiency, Level 7, Polearm Weapon Proficiency, Level 6, Heavy Weapon Proficiency, Level 3, Hot Weapon Proficiency, Level 1. Blessings, Physical Fitness, Quick Attack, Precision. John blinked his dry eyes. After returning home from Diagon Alley, he learned a bit of magic. It took him a month to learn the magic unlocking spell to Level 3, and he also added a magic spell attribute. Level 1 Allahu Opening can only open simple door latches and the like. Level 2 can open door locks, and Level 3 has already opened the safe that my father secretly hid behind his mother's back. Thanks to this, he also touched the pistol in the safe, adding a Level 1 thermal weapon. Professor McGonagall is still introducing the 4 colleges. John knew all these things and didn't listen. Carefully, Neville saw Lef on the stairs, shouted in surprise and rushed out. This scene caused many little wizards to snicker, and made Neville return to the team in embarrassment and timidity. After McGonagall turned around and went to prepare for the sorting matters, at a young age, Draco Malfoy, who combed back his hair, fell in love with the savior Harry Potter at first sight. No. Fell in love and killed each other. It seems that what they said on the train is true. Harry Potter is coming to Hogwarts. With 2 steadfast followers, Crabbe and Goyle, Malfoy stepped forward and stood on the steps and proudly introduced himself to Harry Potter, Draco Malfoy. His character is like this, with the arrogance of a pure-blood noble, and these are exactly what Weasley hates. So Ron sneered even more when he saw his peacock spreading his tail, not loudly, but just enough for Malfoy to hear. Malfoy turned his head and looked at Ron. The person who knows you best must be your most hated enemy. Recognizing that this is a member of the Weasley family, Malfoy sneered contemptuously without any disguise. Red hair, old robes passed down from the family, you must belong to the Weasley family. Ron, who was poked at the pain point, was very wronged. The Weasley family is too populous, with 7 children alone. In order to save money, he had to use what his brothers left behind. After laughing at Weasley, Malfoy made a wooing move towards Harry. You'll soon find out that certain wizarding families are simply superior. Potter, no one wants to make friends with dubious people. I can help you. Being able to make the proud Malfoy reach out his hand to show his kindness shows that he really wants to be friends with Harry. These remarks made John frown. Although he only thought Malfoy was arrogant when he saw it before, it still made people very uncomfortable after hearing it in person. These words demoted all wizards other than pure blood, and made people want to punch that proud face. It's just that Malfoy apparently forgot one thing. Harry and Weasley are friends, and no one likes to be laughed at in front of their friends. I think I can tell the good from the bad myself, thanks. Harry resolutely rejected Malfoy's overture, which made Malfoy a little embarrassed. When the two looked at each other affectionately, John couldn't help shaking his head. Little Malfoy, this friend is not like this. John walked a few steps forward calmly and got close to Neville, and Hermione followed him when he saw him coming forward. Hermione thought John was angry when he heard Malfoy's words, and if he hit someone on the first day of school, it was a bad thing, whether it was a wizarding school or not, but what she was worried about was superfluous. Not long after Malfoy finished speaking, Professor McGonagall came back and brought them in together in a row. Over the Hogwarts Great Hall is a magical night sky, with hundreds of candles floating in the air to illuminate the Great Hall. There are 4 long tables full of students. The sides of the students' clothes on the long tables have different colors, representing the 4 colleges: red and gold Gryffindors, blue and gray Ravenclaw, green and silver Slytherin. A yellow and black Hufflepuff. The 4 huge funnels on the auditorium represent the credits of each house. The senior students watched the junior students come in, and Hermione next to John was chattering about Hogwarts, a piece of school history, which gave John some headaches. No wonder the 3 little ones and the other 2 felt bad for Hermione in the early stage. After all, when I was a child, I had a strong self-esteem. Fortunately, John is not a child, let alone hate Hermione. His attention was more on the kind old man with the white beard, not just the headmaster of Hogwarts. It is also the ceiling of combat power in the magic world, the existence that the 2 Dark Lords feared most, the Dinghashenshen in the magic world, and the person who can summon the Phoenix. The White Lord of the Wizarding World, Albus Dumbledore. John's curious gaze caught Dumbledore's attention. The old man had never lacked patience with students, and even winked at John playfully. Chapter 6: Sorting and Fighting. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The next thing is that Dumbledore released a plot mission, and specifically emphasized that the corridor on the right side of the 4th floor is dangerous. John just wants to complain about this. Isn't it obvious that you let the curious lion go over and have a look? Then came the sorting ceremony, beginning with the unshakable Hannah Abbott. The sorting hat assigned her to Hufflepuff. When it was John's turn, Hermione had already been assigned to Gryffindor and was watching him expectantly. No one wants to be separated from their friends. John Wick. Professor McGonagall called John's name, and John stepped up. Smooth black hair, exquisite face, and perfectly held wizard robe. Girls at the age of foreigners are no more precocious than Tian Chao, and they talked about this good-looking boy with blushing faces and whispers. Coming under the sorting hat, John saw the spider working on the brim of the sorting hat, and he couldn't help but almost avoided it in disgust. Although this road has an impression of the wizard's slovenly appearance, it is too dirty. Wouldn't Professor McGonagall feel sick holding it? The sorting hat was placed on the head, and the sound of the sorting hat's exasperation came. What a disrespectful little wizard, as arrogant as Slytherin. John was embarrassed. He didn't expect the sorting hat to know his thoughts. For this reason, he couldn't help asking curiously, is this legilimency? Legiliency? The little wizard still knows this kind of advanced magic, but it's a pity that he doesn't. As the hat of Gryffindor, the founder of the first generation, the sorting hat certainly does not use legilimency. To be precise, it is a more advanced type. It's really hard to choose. You have courage and exploration spirit, hard work and tolerant fraternity, shrewdness and ambition, and dedication to honor. This is very suitable for Slytherin. The sorting hat muttered to itself in a very embarrassing way, and John froze for a moment when he heard it. Wait, you didn't mention wisdom at all. Are you implying that you're stupid? Too much? No, the point is how he got involved with Slytherin. I am not a pure blood, and the average Slytherin is a pure blood control, which is a natural opposition to myself. As for ambition, John is also very innocent. He just wants to be the next Dumbledore-level wizard. What's wrong with that? Are you sure you never said you wanted to be Superman when you were a kid? At most, I still want to dominate a college. Isn't this the same as becoming the class monitor? It's a fart ambition. Slander, absolutely slander. It's a pity that no matter how he brainstormed, the sorting hat finally hesitated and shouted out the answer. Slytherin. What? John was dumbfounded. I am a Muggleborn. You send me to Slytherin, who doesn't know that Slytherin is a pure blood control, and he can't even be considered a mixed blood. At most he can say a mudblood. Let yourself go. Doesn't it mean you're going to be bullied? The sorting hat said lightly, don't worry, little wizard, your honor will make Slytherin admire you. I suspect you are retaliating against me for speaking ill of you. John expressed doubts. The assignment of the sorting hat is absolute, and not even Dumbledore can change that. he had no choice but to walk toward Slytherin with heavy steps. From Gryffindor, there were two worried looks. Both Hermione and Neville were worried about their friends. Oh, life is not easy. So alive, Slytherin only had a place next to Malfoy. After he walked over and sat down, Malfoy thought he was some pure-blood kid when he saw how good-looking and polite he was. After all, in Malfoy's cognition, pure blood is so elegant, and he doesn't think of muggles at all. As a child of the Malfoy family, he is unwilling to live in an ordinary life, and it would be a good thing for him to have one more help. So he proudly stretched out his hand to make friends, and said, "Draco Malfoy, holy 28 pure-blooded Malfoy." He raised his head proudly and looked at people through his nostrils, like a male peacock eager to court and show off. John glanced at it, held it politely, and said calmly, "John Wick." Malfoy admired his sensible behavior, unlike that Harry Potter, although the other party is not a pure blood of the sacred 28, but with such a sensible attitude, he decided to treat this classmate well, so he asked proudly, "Are you pure-blooded or mixed-blooded?" John glanced at his proud appearance, and said lightly, "Neither of them." Malfoy's expression froze. "Didn't he? Isn't that all muggles? You're a mud-blood." A word came to mind, and Malfoy said it automatically. Next second, his jaw was hit, and then he saw a change in the scene in front of him. Crabbe's scream and Goyle's scream reached his ears. Immediately afterwards, there was a commotion in the whole courtyard, and then Professor McGonagall's reprimand. Malfoy spent the night in the school hospital on his first day of school, first Thursday of school. Oh, life is always full of variables like this. Life is short and short. In the trophy showroom, John, holding a rag as elegant as a waiter holding a white handkerchief, was wiping the metal with James Potter. The supervising Filch turned his head away somewhat unbearably. He beat the school manager's son on the first day of school, and it was an extrajudicial favor for John to continue wiping metals here, not to mention that he also inserted the fork into the back of Goyle's hand, and pressed the little wizard's head to make intimate contact with the table. Although it was because Malfoy insulted him first, this strike was too harsh. Most of Slytherin's points were deducted at the beginning of school, and Snape's face was so gloomy that it was about to drip water. If Dumbledore hadn't interceded, John would have dropped out of school. As punishment, John had to polish the trophies in the trophy room for 2 months. It is also because of this that John's name resounded throughout Hogwarts when he first started school. He is the most outstanding student this year. Mrs. Norris, Filch's cat, was licking the fur on her paws, a large Maine Coon that was ridiculously thin. John also finished his day's work and waved to Norris. "Bye-bye, Mrs. Norris, I'll bring you some cat food tomorrow, and see if I can make you thinner." After the greeting, John left the trophy room before Filch could get angry. Back in the Slytherin lounge, John silenced the little wizard's conversation as soon as he entered. Little wizards were frightened by his ferocious performance at the beginning of school, and some even spread his title of Boogeyman. Because of his hair and his fierce skills that day, he was called this nickname. The meaning is similar to that of evil spirits, which shows their fear of John. John didn't take this seriously, and the fight also had his own intentions. As a wizard from a Muggle family, if you don't want to become a bully of Slytherin, you'd better play your own prestige. Obviously, he did. The only price was that he had no friends in Slytherin, but it wasn't without its benefits. He started a series of tasks called Night Demon. As long as the night travel time reaches hours, it can be completed and a Night Demon blessing can be rewarded. Back to his room, fearing that John would have another confrontation with someone else, he was given a single room. It's satisfying for him, so he can have the dog and exercise at his fingertips. 3-month-old Tom jumped up and down in the room when he was restless, and sometimes provoked Basil the snowy owl. It's just that doing so is usually in exchange for Basil's wing, and then honestly it doesn't take long for him to continue to be beaten. The first thing he does when he gets back is to start exercising. This is his daily homework, and it is also a way to accumulate magic power, strengthen the body, improve the adaptability to magic power through exercise, and absorb magic power during the exercise. What about the magic apprentice you agreed to? Why do you feel like I'm about to become a berserker? After the exercise, John touched his obviously enlarged muscles. Is it really good for a freshman to have 8-pack abs? Whose magic power is accumulated by exercising the body, but I have been doing this for many years, and I have formed a habit. End your day with a shower. Chapter 7 Snape and the Scholar. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The next day John went to the potions classroom. As soon as he sat down, there was an empty space around him. When the people of Gryffindor came, they saw John, who stood out from the crowd. Both Hermione and Neville looked over worriedly, and John shrugged and gave him a look of nothing. Class begins. Snape was walking like a greasy bat. His robes were puffed up by the wind as he walked, as if he had a blower. This class doesn't require you to fiddle around with your wand or say spells. Walking to the podium and standing firm, Snape folded his arms and looked around the students sharply, immediately began his own opening remarks. I can teach you how to confuse the mind, how to confuse the senses. I will teach you to earn fame and brew glory. It can even teach you how to live forever. John curled his lips when he heard these words. If you could teach them, would Voldemort still want to get Horcruxes? Immediately, his eyes wandered to summon the panel, and his magic power increased after training. Magic power, level 1, 20 out of 100, curse, Allahu hole opening, level 3, skills, short weapon proficiency, level 7, polearm weapon proficiency, level 6, heavy weapon proficiency, level 3, hot weapon proficiency, level 1, blessings, physical fitness, quick attack, precision. According to his calculations, he can get 5 points of magic power after a day of training. He wondered if he could get some dumbbells and the like to put in the room. He was distracted. Snape on the podium said, turning his eyes to John, and he made no secret of his disgust. With a sarcasm in his tone, he said in a strange tone, perhaps some of you already had a certain reputation when you first arrived at Hogwarts, and you have a little useful power, so you can be so arrogant that you don't listen to my class seriously. John came back to his senses and saw Malfoy's gleeful expression next to him, and he picked up the quill on the table expressionlessly. It was such a movement that made Malfoy's smile stop abruptly. Although Snape hated John very much, there was an even more annoying person here. Without hesitation, he pointed the finger at Harry Potter, the savior. Mr. Potter, tell me what happens if you add daffodil root powder to a wormwood infusion. Harry Potter was a boarding child of a Muggle family some time ago. Of course he didn't know, and shook his head innocently, but Snape was determined to ask him, and directly ignored Hermione, who raised her hand high next to her. He continued to ask aggressively, Mr. Potter, if I want a Bezoar, do you know where to find it? I don't know, teacher. What's the difference between the boat-shaped aconite and the wolf poison aconite? Do not know. Point one question and one answer. Everyone knew that Snape didn't like the savior. Looking at this scene, John couldn't help laughing. After all, this is also a famous scene. It was this smile that made Snape's hatred shift again. Mr. Wick, maybe you can tell Mr. Potter the answer to the question just now. Snape turned to look at John. John was dumbfounded. How could he have his own role, trigger the plot task, complete Professor Snape's question, and get the blessing, Shueba. There are 2 hours a day to enhance learning efficiency. Does this also trigger the mission? John's eyes were blank for a while, and he quickly came back to his senses and recalled this passage carefully. It's a coincidence that he doesn't remember many things, but he still remembers the famous Snape 3 questions, so he stood up and said, neither humble nor overbearing. Adding narcissus root powder to wormwood infusion can make living hell decoction. Coprolites can be found in goat stomachs. There is no difference between Aconitum acanthus and Aconitum camajasma, they are both the same plant. Confidently answered the 3 questions. John showed a reserved smile. At this moment, the whole classroom fell silent. Malfoy, who wanted to see John make a fool of himself, smiled stiffly. Snape was a little surprised, but it was more disgusting that his purpose had not been achieved. He said coldly, sit down, 5 points for Slytherin and 5 points for Gryffindor. Chi returns to Chi. What should be given to Slytherin must be added, and what should be deducted from Gryffindor must be deducted. John shrugged and sat down, while reminding him in his mind that he was blessed by a master. The anger that Snape didn't let out managed to burn to the other students, and Malfoy, who was still gloating just now, was frightened and obedient like a pony, and Harry, Ron and other lion cubs looked at John as if they were looking at a hero. After potions class, the Slytherins went out in groups. John seemed alone in the team lobby dining. Looking at the so-called British food, John couldn't help but sigh. Although he has eaten it for so many years, he still can't help but miss the Chinese food occasionally. Hermione came to John, watched John torture the skinned potatoes with a fork, and couldn't help asking worriedly, "John, are you okay?" Hermione was worried about John's situation in Slytherin, but she obviously underestimated John, when John was wondering why some people even ate potato skins. He heard this and said casually, "Of course, don't you see that they are afraid of me?" But in order to comfort Hermione, John decided to let Malfoy down. Glancing at Malfoy passing by, John reached out and stopped him. "Malfoy." Malfoy stopped, watched John approaching vigilantly, and subconsciously took a step back. Feeling ashamed of himself like this, he became annoyed and said, "Wick, what do you want to do, you? If you dare to say it, I dare to send you to the school hospital again." John smiled kindly, but Malfoy couldn't help but stand up. John patted him on the shoulder and said in relief, "Don't worry, I'm not a devil after all. We are all classmates. If you don't look up and look down, I won't go too far." After that, he smiled at the two servants next to Malfoy, causing Crabbe and Goyle to shudder and nod hastily. "Look, Crabbe and Goyle feel the same way, so let's make up." Malfoy looked at the two followers and said angrily, "You two idiots." Looking at John's extended hand, he said stiffly, "I refuse to be your friend, and don't think that you can be arrogant if you defeat me in a sneak attack. Wizards should use magic to decide the outcome, not fists." John withdrew his hand indifferently. Hearing what he said immediately, "Well, let's find a place and fight openly. Don't nobles like duels? I'll satisfy you." That made Malfoy panic, and his neck still hurts to this day. Immediately, he stopped talking, lowered his head as if he hadn't heard, and left in despair. John sat back and said to Hermione, who was stunned, "Look, it's all right." Hermione nodded ignorantly, "Is that okay?" But Shuaba's brain circuit is always special, and she discussed potions with John. John got dizzy when he heard it, and he finished the food in 2 or 3 bites, leaving the potato with the skin on, and left in despair. After all, he only knew those 3, and he knew nothing about the others. A flock of owls flew into the Great Hall while Neville was given a memory ball. Hogwarts is very good, the class time is short, the rest time is long, and it is closed on Saturdays and Sundays, taking advantage of weekends to exercise. John ran by the Black Lake with a stone the size of a human head on his back. This feeling of being able to see the increase in magic power is really refreshing. Seeing the growth of data, John has a feeling that he is playing a game. He hasn't forgotten the dangers of the Harry Potter world, and campus life won't last long. He had seen Professor Quirrell in class this week, and remembered the choking stench, which was impressive. In his previous life, John had seen the movie, so he didn't know much about the original book. The other plots are almost forgotten. "The only thing I remember is that Quirrell has Voldemort on his head. I didn't recognize him last time at the Leaky Cauldron, but I did this time. I just don't know how the frightening Dark Lord could bear that stench. I can't remember the specifics, but I only remember that Quirrell was finally occupied by Voldemort and defeated by Harry." John secretly said, "This danger cannot be ignored. We must improve our strength as soon as possible. Reality is not fiction, and even a little danger is enough to be fatal." Throwing away the stone, looking at the dirty clothes, he thought about where he could get some weight-bearing equipment. The second week of school, here comes the second impressive class in the wizarding world, flying lessons. Chapter 8, Flying and Dueling. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Old broomsticks lay at the feet of every little wizard. Mrs. Hooch dressed up dashingly and taught every little wizard. Chien exhorted Wand to be careful, but something happened. Neville didn't control it well, and rushed straight into the sky, and the memory ball fell down. Although a free fall has been buffered, it still breaks the arm. Mrs. Huichi didn't care about teaching others anymore, and took Neville to the school hospital for treatment. The little wizards of the 2 colleges left behind looked at each other. Malfoy picked up Neville's memory ball, held the memory ball and began to provoke Harry, but was accidentally discovered by McGonagall that Harry had a talent for seeking balls. John didn't get involved, either because he knew Harry was there or because he was still wrestling with the broom. After several attempts, John finally flew. Hermione wanted him not to follow the example of those 2 who broke the rules, but she missed it, and could only stomp her feet angrily. Although it was wobbly at first, after a while it became familiar and John finally stabilized. Ding, get blessing. pilot, increase the flying speed of the broom and increase the control over the broom. Is this all possible? Once John stabilized, he was free to fly. Snape passing by saw his performance, snorted coldly and turned his head to leave. Flying has been an ability that humans have longed for since ancient times. After mastering the ability to fly, John flew until the end of get out of class before reluctantly landing. When it was time for dinner, John met Malfoy, with 2 followers. Malfoy changed his previous timidity, and said arrogantly, "Wick, don't you want to duel with me? I challenge you now. At 11:30 in the evening, I am in the trophy showroom on the 3rd floor. Wait for you." After speaking, Malfoy left with his 2 followers like a rooster. John watched him leave like a fool, and muttered, "This kid has listened to young Jingru's songs too much, so courageous. Don't you know that you have to clean the trophy room?" Carrying a bag of cat food sent by Mrs. Wick, John went to the trophy showroom as usual. Mrs. Norris sat at the door, her eyes like red glass meowed when she saw John. During this period of time, John basically got acquainted with Mrs. Norris, and opened the cat food and poured it out to Mrs. Norris. After John finished cleaning the trophy, Mrs. Norris finished eating too. He reached out to hug Mrs. Norris, took out a comb from his pocket, and combed Mrs. Norris's knotted hair. Mrs. Norris enjoyed this and purred comfortably. Filch probably went to catch the students. Knowing that John wouldn't cheat, he got used to letting John clean the trophy room by himself. "I'll see what you want to do." Knowing that Malfoy would not overestimate his ability to challenge him, John was ready to see what the other party was up to. "Anyway, I was fine to clean here, so I don't mind going back later." Waited until 11:30, instead of waiting for Malfoy. There were whispers, 4 people walked in outside the trophy display room. The protagonist group had 3 little ones and a wild Neville. Neville was locked out for a few hours because he forgot the password to the waiting room with the treatment arm, and finally the 3 little ones met him when they came out. The 4 of them also saw John after they came in, and both of them were taken aback when they met. "Why are you here?" John asked suspiciously. Harry was also confused, and said, "Malfoy invited us here, so are you his helper?" John looked at Harry, who suddenly became vigilant, speechlessly, and said speechlessly, "Do you think Malfoy's first meal at the beginning of school was for nothing?" This made sense, leaving Harry speechless. For Gryffindors plus 1 Slytherin, the 5 people stared wide-eyed, and Harry reacted angrily and said, "We were tricked by Malfoy." Ron also said angrily, "Despicable Slytherin. John, I didn't mean you." With the incident of the beginning of school, John's 1-on-3 heroic appearance succeeded in becoming the only Slytherin that Gryffindor liked. When the 4 colleges mentioned John Wick, their first reaction was that the sorting hat was broken. This is obviously Gryffindor. Even the little lions of Gryffindor thought so, and the Weasley twins thought that the hat must be too grey to blind their eyes, and they got a lot of detergent to wash the sorting hat. When the few people were communicating, they heard Filch's voice from outside. John immediately figured out Malfoy's intentions and wanted to catch them for a night out. Harry also reacted, and said in shock, "No, it's Filch. Let's run." The 4 of them couldn't care less, and hurried outside. Among them, Neville and Hermione grabbed John's hand and pulled him out like this. It can only be said that it is not unreasonable for these 2 people to be able to enter the famous reckless House of Gryffindor, without giving John a chance to explain. He turned the innocent John into a fugitive. John ran along helplessly, and by the way, stretched out his hand to grab Neville who was about to fall. So as to prevent Neville from falling flat on the ground, they fled all the way, with Filch chasing after them. Every now and then a meow reminded Filch. Knowing that Mrs. Norris was reminding him, John couldn't help but slander, "The cat food is for nothing." Thanks to feeding so much cat food, Mrs. Norris did not hesitate to betray herself at the critical moment. Several people ran all the way from the trophy showroom to the classroom of the charms class. After running so far, 4 little wizards who lacked exercise were leaning against the cold wall and gasping for breath. Only John was not flushed or out of breath. Strength versus magic, game, dash. Strength wins, Hermione complained breathlessly. "I told you. Malfoy lied to you, you understand. He didn't intend to fight you at all. He must have revealed the news to Filch." Harry was aware of this too, but the little boy's pride kept him from saying it. "I had to go back to the Gryffindor lounge first, and if they were caught, they would be expelled." Dirty Malfoy. Harry cursed secretly. they want to leave, but things are often not that simple. There was a rattle in the front classroom, and Peeves dressed as a clown jumped out of it. When they saw a few little wizards, they screamed strangely. Seeing Peeves, Harry's heart went cold, and he begged, "Peeves, please, you're going to get us fired. I'm going to tell Filch it's for your own good to let him arrest you all." Ron tried to threaten, but it didn't work, so he reached out and hit Peeves in anger. This is considered to have stabbed a hornet's nest, and Peeves immediately yelled, and Filch was attracted to him. John glanced at Skinny, and couldn't help getting angry. No wonder Peeves is so unpopular. He really deserves a beating. When Peeves saw John, he thought of how fiercely he beat people when he entered school, and he was also afraid of seeing the bloody barrow. "When this time is over, I'll see if I can get Peeves off." As he ran past Peeves, John fiercely stretched out his thumb with his right hand across his neck. He remembered that there seemed to be a magic that worked on Peeves, and he must learn to take revenge. Peeves didn't know what the gesture meant. Several people came to the end of the corridor, which was a locked door. The door that couldn't be opened made Ron whimper in despair. "It's over. Get out of the way, Alahul." John directly took out the wand hidden in his sleeve and cast a spell on the door. With a click, the door lock opened. Several people hurried inside to close the door, carefully lying on the door and listening. Filch met Peeves outside, and Peeves played tricks on him. Angrily, Filch cursed incessantly. John looked at the room boredly, but as soon as he turned his head, he saw 3 huge heads. The huge body almost filled the entire room, and the 6 vicious big eyes that were turning around on the head were staring at them at this moment, as if they were taken aback. Swallowing his saliva, John's voice trembled a little. "Hermione, Harry, Ron, Neville, I think you should watch this." Hearing his words, several people looked back, and they also froze on the spot. Death and Filch. Filch was more amiable without a second thought, so John didn't hesitate, reached out and touched the door handle to open the door. "Run!" he yelled to remind the 4 people who were frozen. John dragged out Neville, who was closest to him, and his legs were weak, and the rest of them rushed out too. Bang, the door is closed. Chapter 9 Lessons and Mana Upgrades. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Several people ran away, regardless of whether Filch was in the corridor or not. Fortunately, they were lucky. Filch went to find someone else, and they ran all the way back to the door of the Gryffindor lounge. The fat lady on the oil painting on the door asked in surprise, "Where did you all go?" "Don't ask, just open the door." The few who were sweating profusely turned their heads back with lingering fear, for fear that the big monster would chase them out. Harry gave the signal and Pig Nose opened the door and was about to enter. "Wait, John, aren't you from Slytherin?" Just as he was about to go in, Harry remembered that John was a Slytherin. Only then did John realize that he was not a student of Gryffindor, so he had to watch several people enter the Gryffindor lounge. After the door closed, he ignored the fat lady's surprise at Gryffindor mixing with Slytherins. He walked back alone. On the way back, he saw Malfoy. Maybe he wanted to see if his plan was successful, but Malfoy didn't expect to meet John. When he turned his head and was about to go back, he was stopped by John with a lunge. With an absolute advantage of being 1 head taller, John gave Malfoy a wall. He said with a bad expression, "Malfoy kid, you don't want the dean to know about your night outing, do you?" Malfoy glanced around subconsciously. The entire corridor was just the 2 of them, not to mention his followers, Crabbe and Goyle, who were still sleeping soundly in the warm quilt. What are you going to do? It's obviously your night tour." Malfoy was frightened by John's aura. John sneered, "I usually don't hold grudges. I usually report grudges on the spot. What do you think I'm going to do?" Before Malfoy could react, John's right hand covered what Malfoy was about to yell. With a flick of his left hand, the wand slipped out of the sleeve modified by Mrs. Wick's skillful hands. Did you know that the material of the wand itself is very hard, except for the use of magic spells? The wand dangled in front of Malfoy's eyes. His wand was narrow at the top and wide at the bottom, with a head that looked like chopsticks. From time to time, the wand paused near Malfoy's eyeball, as if it was about to plunge into it in the next second. This made Malfoy's body tremble uncontrollably. "Hush, keep your voice down, don't let Filch hear it. You must know that in Filch's office, there are many instruments of torture used to punish people." The voice echoing in his ears like a demon made Malfoy regret why he would provoke such a madman. The wand in his hand shook for a while, and John quickly clenched his fist and punched Malfoy in the stomach. The punch almost made Malfoy spit out, and curled up in the corridor clutching his stomach. "Remember, don't think about calculating me in the future." John looked down at him, turned and walked away a few steps, then looked back at Malfoy, who was still unable to move while clutching his stomach. He still relented. If Filch caught him, Slytherin would lose points again. "I don't want the 4 colleges to be at the bottom of Slytherin every year." Stepping forward to help him up, John said to him earnestly, "We are all from the same academy, there is no need to confront each other." Malfoy's face paled in pain and his lips trembled. How could he, a weakling, resist John's punch? John still said to himself, "It's reasonable that everyone is a Slytherin, why can't we get along well? As long as you don't mess with me, I won't mess with you, maybe we can still be friends." John's impression of Malfoy was that of a spoiled child. Malfoy had been brought up to be pure blood, and John wouldn't blame him for that. In other words, if the other party didn't open his eyes and provoke him, he wouldn't do anything to Malfoy. Pure breed. Coming to a wet stone wall, John spoke the password. The door to the Slytherin common room opened and he placed Malfoy on the sofa in the common room. It is also unknown who designed the lounge. The lounge is narrow and low, and some bones and bronze are used for decoration. The overall tone is dark and windy, which makes the lounge look dark and cold without any warmth. The black lake was sparkling, and a giant squid swam past the window. John whispered to Malfoy, "Remember what I said, we may not be friends, but we shouldn't be enemies." Malfoy clutched his stomach and stared at John, not knowing how much he had said. After waving his hand, John didn't continue to say anything, and turned back to his room. After a day of training, his mana reached 65, and it wouldn't be too long before he was upgraded. After washing and going to bed, he lay on the bed and recalled what the big dog with 3 heads was called, and he saw the trap door under the big dog. It seems to be related to the 3 little ones. Remember, there was a weakness, like it was music or something. After thinking about it, he fell asleep. The next day, Malfoy strutted past John like a normal person. It's just that he didn't continue to provoke John anymore. It should be that the previous words worked. Malfoy couldn't believe that Harry and Ron were still at Hogwarts. Harry and Ron were discussing what was hidden in the trapdoor under the dog. Harry remembered the report about the theft at Gringotts, and then talked about the small bag he and Hagrid saw when they went to Gringotts. The 2 little ones brainstormed and discussed conspiracy theories, and Hermione went back to quarrel with Harry and Ron yesterday, and now she doesn't want to talk to them. Hermione came to John, sat down angrily and complained, "Those 2 arrogant guys, we were almost killed by a big dog, and they still found it very funny. My God, why is there such a stupid person, and this person is still my classmate?" Hermione whispered in her ear, and John was used to it. This is the time to just listen. Neville also leaned over. Being by John's side gave him a sense of security. If John hadn't been here yesterday, he would probably have become the fresh excrement of the big dog in the morning. It was a rare scene where 2 Gryffindors and Slytherins were mixed together. After breakfast, John didn't forget to go to exercise. He didn't want to waste such a good time in the morning. John's daily schedule. After breakfast in the morning, go for a run around the Black Lake, push-ups and leapfrog at noon, headed to the trophy room after dinner and returned to the room to do push-ups and sit-ups while studying. The day was full of schedules, and occasionally I took Tom and Basil to relax near the Forbidden Forest. It was just bad luck that John was caught by Hagrid. Without entering the Forbidden Forest, Hagrid only gave a verbal warning. John didn't take it to heart. On the contrary, he got acquainted with that big dog's tooth and teeth after going back and forth. Yaya fell under Tom's dog food in a very useless way. Ding, magic power upgraded successfully. Current magic power, level 2. Jogging by the Black Lake, John took out a towel and wiped the sweat off his face, showing a bright smile. Finally upgraded, then I can start spell training. The magic power has reached level 2, but there is currently only 1 spell, but practicing the unlocking spell doesn't seem to have much effect. He needs to learn a new spell. With the blessing of Shuaba, John's learning ability is also amazing. He learned the levitation charm before charms class began. With his wand in hand, he cast a spell on a leaf that fell in front of him. Wingardium Leviosa. That he could feel the magic power in his body disappear, and the leaves in front of him floated under the spell. Magic power, level 2, 10 out of 500. Curse, Allahu Hole Opening, level 3, Levitation Curse, level 1. Skills, short weapon proficiency, level 7, polearm weapon proficiency, level 6, heavy weapon proficiency, level 3, hot weapon proficiency, level 1, blessings, physical fitness, quick attack, precision, academic master, pilot, long distance running, although it's only level 1. What can be done is only a light object like a floating leaf, but it still made John smile, and at the same time, he also sent his idea to the restricted area. He likes electric welding more than the levitating spell, no. Yes, if he wants to go to the restricted area, he can try it in these 2 months. After the night tour mission is completed, the mission rewards can pass if you survive the mission. With the punishment on him, it's reasonable to go to the restricted area to clean up, right? Chapter 10 Transfiguration and the Tabby. You are listening at novelfull.audio. There is a Transfiguration class on Monday. When John got up, he saw Tom's passionate tongue first, getting up in a daze, walked to the table and put a big spoonful of dog food for Tom, and John went to brush his teeth and wash his face. Looking at himself in the mirror, John felt as if he had forgotten something. Oops, today is transformation class. It was a little late for night swimming last night, and John fell asleep after coming back to exercise. He came out in a hurry, and saw the alarm clock with Tom's saliva still on the ground. No wonder I didn't hear the alarm clock. It turned out that Tom used it as a teething toy, putting on his wizard robes. The Slytherin common room was already empty when John walked out of the dormitory. In the hallway, he began to envy the Weasley twins, because they can always find a convenient shortcut, but fortunately, John is also in good physical condition. When you arrive at the lobby, there is still time to settle a breakfast. Hermione was still looking around, but when she saw John coming, she waved to John. John sat next to Hermione and glanced at Hermione, who was still fighting with Harry and Ron, but he didn't say anything. Where's Neville? Has he overslept or lost his way? As far as John knew, Neville was often forgetful and always lost. His toad is missing. He's looking for it in the Gryffindor common room. Hermione ate bread and butter, with some crumbs still on the corner of her mouth. She slowed down to wait for John. Otherwise, at her usual speed, she is already on her way to the classroom. John cut open the fried egg and put it in his mouth. He said helplessly, "Well, I think I know what to give Neville for Christmas. He needs a cage to keep Raffle locked up properly." Noticing the crumbs at the corner of Hermione's mouth, John pointed to the corner of his mouth to signal Hermione. After Hermione reacted, her little face seemed to have blush on it. When John was almost done eating, Neville finally came from his lost way. This was the 4th time Neville had lost his way, and John thought he should get him a Marauder's map. Neville took out the memory ball after sitting down, looking at the red memory ball puzzledly. When something is forgotten, the memory ball will turn red, but Neville never knew what he forgot. John looked him up and down, and said, "Neville, you may not be able to have breakfast this time." "Why?" Neville was depressed. He finally got to the lobby. Looking at Neville sympathetically, John stretched out 2 fingers. "There are 2 reasons. One is that class is about to start, and the other is that you need to go back to the dormitory. Because you forgot to put on your coat." Neville finally remembered what he forgot, and he didn't care about eating, and was anxious on the dizzying moving stairs. John came to the Transfiguration classroom, and he felt a pity that he was locked up and did not participate in the last Transfiguration class because of his fight. He is very interested in the Transfiguration class, but he doesn't remember the details clearly. When he came to the classroom, the green of Slytherin was very different from the red of Gryffindor, and he and Hermione sat separately. Whether in the wizarding world or outside, students will never have a deep secret about the front row. The few remaining seats are in the front row, and John is about to take a seat when he walks over. Suddenly, a tabby cat appeared in his sight. The tabby cat was on the podium just like this, with a strange pattern on its face, like a pair of square glasses. As a fuzz lover, John admits he was moved. Although he vaguely remembered a cat appearing in some plot, his body was a step ahead of his thinking. Taking out the cat strips for Mrs. Norris from his pocket, John came to the tabby cat and started directly with a smile on his face. It was such a move that not only stunned the little wizards in the 2 courtyards, even tabby cats. "This is a cat strip, do you want to try it?" John himself couldn't figure out why his tone was like that of an uncle abducting children. It was only after he acted that he received eyes of awe and admiration. The tabby cat who reacted got rid of his restraints, jumped down from the podium and turned into an older catwoman. "Mr. Wick, I think you should find a seat to sit down now instead of being like a log here." Professor McGonagall maintained his own image, and the square glasses made John finally know the origin of the tabby cat's pattern. John stopped angrily. He remembered the story about the cat. McGonagall teaches the animagus form, a tabby cat with a strange pattern, depressed and walking back to his place. John felt that he would have psychological shadows. "I swear secretly that when I lick cats in the future, I should pay attention to whether the animagus has changed, if the other side turns into a greasy uncle when masturbating, it will be over." Hearing the snickering, John looked back and was swept by his gaze, and Slytherin was silent for a moment. The little wizard of Gryffindor cast adoring gazes at him, and Harry, the savior, opened his mouth slightly, as if meeting someone more reckless than himself for the first time. Hermione looked down and snickered, only to be betrayed by the trembling brown curly hair that shook like a lion cub. With this episode, the little wizard's impression of John changed. It turns out that this boy also has a cute side. Transfiguration lessons learn to transform objects. Looking at the paperclip box, John tries to turn it into a mouse. Unfortunately, deformation is difficult to control. After John tried many times, he finally lit the magic spell. Although it is still level 1, it still successfully completed the transformation before the end of get out of class. Looking at the lifeless mouse in front of him, it was too far from the first time Professor McGonagall became a water glass. 5 for Slytherin. Professor McGonagall awarded John extra points for being the first to finish. What seemed bad to John was satisfactory to Professor McGonagall. As a beginner, it is already very good to miss a class. Even Miss Hermione, who knew it all, couldn't complete it because of the difficulty of transforming. After class, as soon as John left, Hermione trotted after him. "How did you do it?" Playing on the instinct of a top student to ask questions tirelessly, Hermione was bitter about her failure to complete the transformation. It's hard for John to say that he has cheats. He can only say that he has seen Professor McGonagall's demonstration before enrolling. Fortunately, Miss Know-it-all didn't keep asking questions for too long. While in the corridor, John stared at the armor. "John, what are you looking at?" Hermione paused and asked. Behind John, the enchanted oil painting figure also approached, also showing curiosity. John touched his smooth chin and said to himself, "This thing seems to be a good weight." Hearing him talking to himself, the oil painting Jazz opened his mouth wide. What kind of little wizard thinks about carrying weight? Always a man of action. John set his sights on the set of medieval armor, or rather the sword in the armor's hand. Although armor is also a good choice for carrying weight, it is a pity that it is too big and inconvenient to move around. On the contrary, the sword can be carried directly on the back, and it can also be used as exercise equipment when not running. Take the sword away at night. There was a contemplative look in his eyes, which made the armor a little flustered. Besides the Gryffindor lounge, Hermione usually goes to the library the most. Miss Know-it-all has a curiosity for everything except divination. John was also pulled over, mainly for the convenience of familiarizing himself with the location of the restricted area. Picking up a copy of the Tales of Beedle the Poet, he began to pretend. The library has strict rules. If there's any noise in the library, the caretaker, Ms. Irma Pants, will let you know. Just now, John saw Neville, who had eaten too many beans at noon, being chased and beaten by a broom. John sympathized with that. It's night time. After cleaning the trophy display room, John sneaked to the armor in the corridor. Poor Mr. Armor woke up the next day to find that his sword was gone. This matter once became a Hogwarts unsolved case. Only Mr. Filch swears that the Weasley twins did it.